The company culture is at the heart of who the company is. We want companies to have a strong and healthy company culture. It inspires and it empowers. With this lesson, our aim is to empower you. We will provide you with the needed terms, knowledge, and approaches you can take to better your company culture. With that, let's kick off with a quote. Good leadership requires you to surround yourself with people of diverse perspectives who can disagree with you without fear of retaliation. Today's lesson will be Lesson 6, Create a Healthy Company Culture. Our objectives: we will look at culture and leadership, value-based leadership, and creating a vision and purpose. So, to kick off this lesson, we're going to look at leadership motivation, a video by Dr. Myles Munroe. I want you all to please sit back, relax, and really take in every second of this video. And with that, here we go.
Leaders are very unique people. They have a very simple distinction, and that is their thinking is different. Leaders do not think like followers. Leaders used to be followers, all of them. But what made them cross the line was a certain mentality that kicked in somewhere. Something happened to them that made them think differently. And I normally call that attitudes that influence people. If you want to be an impactful personality, you have to develop certain types of thinking and perceptions that change the way you see yourself and see the world. I call this the spirit of leadership. A leader has an attitude that makes him or her different from followers. It doesn't matter how big you are, how intelligent you are, how many degrees you get. It's your mind that keeps you small. And it doesn't matter how small you are, or how unintelligent you may seem to be, or how much you don't have. It's your mind that makes you the leader. Attitude. The attitude, therefore, is the difference. Write this down. The difference between a leader and a follower is attitude. Why? Because it is unique attitudes that distinguish leaders from followers. They think differently. And that's because attitudes produce certain behaviors. And those behaviors stretch the leader beyond the limitations of the norm. In other words, it is the thinking of the person that makes them see circumstances differently. Your life is what you think it should be. That's exactly what you are right now. You are what you thought you should be. And if you don't like who you are, you got to change what you think you should be. That's how leaders are born. True leadership is self-discovery. True leadership is serving your gift to the world. Everyone in this room was born with a specific gift. Some of you got 2 of them. Don't try and develop all of your gifts. Focus on one. Make it your primary gift. And then refine it. And then serve it to the world. The key to leadership is service. But it doesn't mean servitude as making yourself of less value. You serve because you have value. It is your gift that makes you valuable, and serving it is your responsibility. And the better you serve your gift, the greater leadership you achieve. That's why Jesus said the greatest among you is the one who serves everybody. The greatest is the one who serves. So whoever can serve their gift more effectively, they become the greatest in the group. No one came to earth without a gift. The problem is we try to take other people's gifts and make them ours. If you become an imitation, you're going to be broke. You need to find your gift, your strength, your unique power. And you need to take that and say, I'm going to become this. And then serve it to the world. And that's your leadership born that day.
With that fresh in our minds, let's use the inspiration and motivation to have a wonderful lesson. Our first topic is leadership and culture. So, what is culture? Let's look at the explanation. Well, corporate culture refers to the beliefs and the behaviors that determine how a company's employees and management interact and handle outside business transactions. Often corporate culture is implied, not expressly defined, and it develops organically over time with the accumulation of people's traits, experience, and all of these things come up with the company culture. So let's look at a question that I have for you guys. How would you describe your current company culture? For example, we can say we have a healthy company culture based on empowerment. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Thank you all so much. If you are not able to answer the question right now, don't stress. The aim is for me to help guide you during this lesson to eventually come back to this question. Let's look at a quote. Culture is simply a shared way of doing something with a passion. This is by Brian Chesky, the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb. With that, let's look at the 6 building blocks to develop a positive company culture. They found that companies on the Fortune list of 100 best companies had the following in common. In general, these companies were good at creating a feeling of trust, as well as maintaining real, sustained efforts to build a diverse workforce. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you woke up and you jumped out of bed? You were really looking forward to work. Have you ever felt that way? With keeping that in our minds, let's have a conversation going on the community we want to build for our employees. How do we want them to feel? Well, we have 6 ways, 6 areas we need to develop in the organization to build a positive company culture. If you think back to your past jobs or even to your current job, how many of these does your current or past company actually do? So, number 1, build trust. The employees want to feel like they can trust their managers and leaders, and they also want to trust the company. So this is very important. If trust is only within one department, it doesn't change the company culture. It just changes the culture within that group. Number 2, engagement. Leadership is the practice of engagement. Stephen Booth, the CEO, stated the following. Without a doubt, our greatest advantage is our employee-owned business model. Every Braid association has the opportunity to become a shareholder, and 67% of our associates currently are. This means our associates are engaged, they have stakes in the business, and they want to succeed for the clients. Number 3, value. We want to make sure there is value for the employees, for the customers, the company needs to add. A quote by the CEO, James Goodnight of SAS. We want our employees to wake up every morning and be excited to come to work. If they feel valued as though they are making a difference, then they will make a difference. We believe in happy and healthy people that are passionate and are engaged with life, and then they bring that to work. That's why we've stayed focused on every aspect of the employee experience, from inspiring to work, to the freedom to make choices, and to expand in their environment. Number 4, we look at purpose. We want everyone to feel like they have true purpose. John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, said the following. More than ever, people want to know that they are doing something and contributing to great work. Whole Foods Market have a clear sense of purpose and strong commitment to our values that helps our team members connect with their work directly to positively impact our local and global communities. And I think this makes a great place to work. Next, we see conscientiousness of the business as a whole. This means everyone is responsive in his or her surroundings. People care about how they impact others and how they impact the company. The building block starts with the company leaders. Then, alignment. Do you feel your vision is aligned with the business vision? So we want to make sure that the employees understand where they are going and the company understands where they are going. We need to meet in the middle and align expectations and visions. As you keep all of these things in mind, here's a quote from Gary Vee. If you live for the weekends and vacation, your stuff is broken. This is easily one of my favorite quotes. This is one of the biggest indicators whether you are going to be successful in a role. You should wake up every morning dying to get stuck into your work. Here are a few guidelines to help you. Find purpose in your current role, and again, re-engage with the management and the organization. Next, plan and structure a personal development plan. This will help you work to improve your current role or enter a new role or industry. Lastly, plan your exit and move on to a role that you are passionate about and that you want to be doing every day. Let's have a look at a few companies as case studies. First off, we have Whole Foods. The great thing about culture is once you really get it going, it evolves on its own. It's self-organizing, it's dynamic, it just feeds on itself. That is by John Mackey, the co-founder and co-CEO of Whole Foods Market. He said, "You must always realize the business results. Make more money than you possibly could because the culture is in place." So with that, let's have a look at what they actually do. So for Whole Foods, they look at being a force for good. There is a critical connection between purpose-driven culture and business success. John Mackey urges leaders to think outside the box and find a higher inspiration for their businesses. Being a force for good, that's what he calls conscious capitalism. Whole Foods has an example of creating a culture between a business and the employees, so they're bridging the gap. Well, number one, they are contributing to the greater good. Number two, we see clear sense of purpose. The purpose is whole food, whole people, and whole planet. Lastly, we see empowerment. Whole Foods reinvented the wheel many times because we weren't stuck in a legacy of way of thinking. This allows employees to basically run their own stores and work as independent stores. As long as the employees meet the Whole Food overall mission and sell the highest quality organic food and improve the people's well-being, there is no need for interference. The mission is deeply rooted in the company culture. Having a strong purpose and mission attracts a lot of idealistic people who probably won't want to work for a traditional store, said Mackey. His aha moment happened in the Memorial Day of 1981. Floodwater raged Whole Food Market's, the original store. It damaged equipment, wiping almost all the inventory. The store had no insurance, no saving, and they didn't have any more inventory. So the customers and the neighbors joined the staff and cleaned and repaired the store. The creditors and vendors and the investors provided breathing room for Whole Foods, and they reopened within 28 days. Another disaster. 34 years later, when a serious flood ravaged Austin, Texas, Whole Foods Market offered zero-interest loans for neighboring businesses damaged during this flood. The company allocated $1 million for loans, which was available for the companies. The CEO said, "We only survived in 1981 because of the outpour of love and support from our local businesses, customers, and neighbors. Now, we are going to do the same." Let's look at another company, one we all should know by now. We are going to look at Netflix. With that, most entrepreneurial ideas will sound crazy, stupid, and uneconomic, and they'll turn out to be right, by Reed Hastings. Netflix is fond of saying it only hires fully formed adults, and the company treats them as such, bestowing them with great amounts of freedom so that they can take risks, innovate, and not be bogged down by a process or a system. So let's have a look at what they're actually doing. As we said, Netflix hires fully formed adults. Netflix assumes that you have amazing judgment, as said by the chief product officer. The judgment is the solution in every ambiguous problem, not the process. The company flipped the power of the people and expected every person to have a high level of problem solving and power. If you trust and empower people and give them a chance to rise to the higher expectation, the vast majority of people are able to do so. So let's look at what they're doing. Number one, the culture. The employees are given the freedom and the responsibility over their roles. 2, everyone has a clear sense of purpose. provide a high-quality streaming service along creating the best in-house shows, movies, and documentaries. Netflix has reinvented its business entirely. The company is doing very well because they did not stick to the status quo. Number 3, hard work not relevant. Employees are judged on what they produce, not the amount of hours that they work. So the saying goes, work smarter, not harder. Employees at the California-based streaming video giant know that they are not being judged on how many hours are they putting in or pretending to work. No, the company is looking at the output of the employees and rewarding them based on that. Employee managers use the Keeper test to evaluate employees. If one of the employees told you that he or she is leaving for a job at the peer company, would you fight hard to keep the employee at Netflix? If the answer is no, then Netflix will put the person out of the organization. Although this seems harsh, former Netflix managers say it's an effective way to build an effective team. It is a way to understand if the person is looking at the culture and if it is a weak performer. Weak performers are easily to deal with, said the CEO, but it also means that the company culture is suffering if you do not take these people out of the organization. Netflix Chief Talent Officer said that the company has been able to maintain its open culture from its early days because the company has a foundation of freedom and responsibility, not having a lot of rules and not having policies, but using people's own judgment. By using these guiding principles, Netflix has transformed itself from a DVD by mail company into the world's largest subscription streaming video service, while expanding into developing and creating some of the highest quality films and series over the last couple of years. So this is an extremely good case study where you have Whole Foods and we have Netflix. So let's look here. So with all of that in mind, why does culture matter? Well, culture must align with your purpose. So, what do you do on a daily basis to build value for your customers and for your staff? This will reflect in your culture. So, why does culture matter? Culture exerts influence. We have discovered that employees who work for the same corporation, no matter what their jobs are 30% more likely to exhibit similar leadership competencies. This is defined as the way a person learns, deduces, envisions, engages, and executes. Number 2, we see culture has potency. The potency of the culture can be both a blessing and a curse. For organizations, they ponder strategic and human resource issues. This means that culture impacts everything. It is potent. It filters through every part of the organization, and therefore it is very important to focus on your culture as it influences the way your employees think and the future of the company. Number 3, culture change is hard. CEOs trying to assemble a diverse and an independent-minded executive team should also take note. A board of directors overseeing a turnover and the appointment of a new CEO must also be vigilant. Changing the top leaders are tough enough. Changing the entrenchment behavior of hundreds and thousands of employees is a mammoth of a task. And while it's still tough to measure, an upfront understanding of how culture influences leadership can help corporations steer them through these choppy and difficult waters. Then continuing on, here we have why does culture matter? Number 4, it's hard to pin down. Culture is ever evolving as you change systems, gain new talent, and as you adapt to new markets. The key is to establish your key principles and core cultural values. It can't be written down. Well, we have our culture plan, our statements, but in actuality, it comes down to the people. The people will either adapt to the company culture or they will change it. This change can either be good or bad. Then, consistency is key. Culture will always be changing and adapting, but the culture that the company leaders want should be consistent. Culture starts from the top. The leaders and managers must display the actions and characteristics aligned with the company culture. With that, I have another question for you guys. Do you think your current company culture is effective? Top tip I want you guys to think of before answering. Are your leaders embodying the company culture? Are employees forming part of this company culture? And do you have a formal company culture? I'll give you guys a few seconds. With that food for thought, let's jump back into parts of company culture. According to Neil Patel, the 4 elements of company culture will include the following. Number 1, hire employees that fit the company culture. You want to look at the employees, the skills and the knowledge they have for the position. But you also want to see if the candidate is the correct fit for your team. This is a practical example that I want to share with you guys. So for example, the company can invite employees that have passed the initial interview to join a culture interview. The culture interview can be a casual meeting with the candidate and other random members of staff. This way, you can get more feedback from your coworkers. For example, you can have someone from accounting, someone from sales, and maybe the head of the company. The idea is to ask the candidate questions about his or her likes, dislikes, and core values. This is a very useful scenario to ask culture-relevant questions to see if the person is a good fit. Number 2, focus on the mission and the vision. The aim is to align your company culture with your mission and your vision. This way, it's easier to set up the company culture to ensure that both are aligned. Number 3, generate ideas as a group. It's very important to incorporate the team in the company culture. The best teams make use of think tanks, group input, and work on a problem as a unit. Number 4, focus on the team. It's up to the leader and the manager to ensure that the employees understand the company culture. It is important to make sure that the employees form part of the company culture. It's a very good opportunity to coach and mentor employees to better engage with the company culture. Then moving on, we see how do we build this culture. So now we understand the value of it, we've looked at case studies, but let's look at the skills you need to build this culture. Number 1, you need a vision, a purpose, and values. The company culture should flow from company vision, purpose, and values. If you don't know them, you need to find out. Cast your vision long, but also make sure to provide clear, short-term, singular goals which everyone can easily measure and contribute to. Number 2, accountable. Be accountable. Look to improve at all times. Focus on the results, past performance, and development. Number 3, trust. Speak consistent goals. Learn to speak the truth. Don't preach transparency and not practice it. This speaks to the trust and integrity. We need to build a culture where the employees trust each other, when they trust the leaders and the managers, and when they trust the company. Number 4, we see attract talent. We want to train people. Spend time on getting the right talent. Coach your interviewees as part of the interview process. Make sure they have the needed skills and that they fit the company culture. Number 5, encourage. Collaborate across teams and departments. Solve problems together. Allow time for critical thinking to happen each week. Then, number 6, take action. When you see something is wrong in someone's behavior or if they need help, you need to take action. With that, I have a little sneak peek for you guys. Coming up in lesson 7, we are going to explore diversity management. We will look at the different generations and what management tactics to use and guide you to applying these skills. Buzzwords will include baby boomers, Generation Z, millennials, and Generation Y. Moving back to topic number 2, value-based leadership. Complaining is easy, executing is hard. Again by Gary Vee. So what does this mean? Well, let's look at What is value-based leadership? Well, number one, leaders allow for time for self-reflection. You identify what matters most to you, find out what you stand for, and you discover your values. Number two, value-based leadership means you are open-minded. This allows you to see things from a different perspective. You can ask for different points of view, and you consider all sides of an argument. Number three, confidence. Accepting who you are, recognizing your strengths and your weaknesses, but also seeking to improve when you need to. Lastly, value-based leaderships mean you are humble. Never forget who you are. Value each other at work and treat everyone with respect. If we go back to John Mackey, I think he worked on himself a lot. He worked on his self-awareness. The starting point is when the leader leads others to know oneself. If you don't know yourself, how can you lead others? If you can't lead, how can you be in a position of power? Leaders are open-minded and they see things from different perspectives. They walk in other people's shoes. Leaders have an innate confidence that comes down to being comfortable in their own skills, knowing their strengths and their weaknesses. Then let's look at how to practice value-based leadership. Number one, lead by example. People prefer to be led and not managed. Being consistent in everything you do means your staff see it and they have a good chance of wanting to follow you. Number two, we see communicate. Communicate your values and your vision. People want to know that they are working towards something. Number three, recognize effort. Leaders are those who look at everyone and empower them. When leaders do not empower, people feel devalued and they are not comfortable with the leader or the manager. Then walk the talk. Be accountable. Employees appreciate a leader who is true to their words. Lead with integrity and use your influence to improve the situation in the team. Bottom line, the role of leadership is to add value to other people. True measure of leadership is influence. Thus, a great leader must have the ability to change the attitude and behavior of others. Let's look at values and impact. We will firstly look at the value and then the impact of that value. Number one, encourage feedback from all. The impact is you will enhance your reputation and the trust. Number two, be socially responsible towards people, the planet, and how you make profit. The impact is consumers are demanding you to act responsibly. Then values. Share your company values with your shareholders, with your customers, with your employees. The impact of that is your key drivers of employee engagement will improve. Then ethical sourcing. The impact is you will win market share as this gives you a competitive advantage and people like the values. Making a difference. The impact of that is you are driving positive change. Lastly, strong value base, which means longevity and growth. So this is wonderful for the company culture, but also for the value-based leadership. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. This is a quote by Gandhi. With that, let's look at servant leadership. First pioneered by Robert K. Greenleaf back in the 1970s. Greenleaf teaches that servant leadership leads to serving others. He worked for 40 years and felt something was wrong in traditional authoritarian leadership. In his essay, Essentials of Servant Leadership, he explains why this works. The person is not a leader first, but a servant first. So essentially, they make sure that the team or the employees are taken care of before they worry about their own jobs or about their own authority. He also stated that the servant leader is much more open and are more likely to grow and develop as a leader because they are constantly trying to better serve others. So let's look at a few components. Number one, serve others. You are ready to work for others. Be a leader that jumps in and helps to lead. Number 2, they place the needs of others ahead of their own. The leader will look to the needs of his or her employees. Based on their needs, the leader will set up strategies, systems, and processes to better serve the employees. Number 3, be a servant first and a leader second. At times, it can be hard to stand back and be a servant first. There are times where leaders want to take care of their own needs and make decisions fast and not think of the impact. With this leadership style, it requires us to think of the employees first. Lastly, be a mentor. It's essential to coach and mentor the employees. The leader needs to invest each and every day in the employees. You need to guide them in their career, their personal growth, and to develop them as holistic employees. Lastly, let's look at topic number 3. So how can we create a vision and a purpose? Keep in mind, we want to align this with our company culture. So first off, let's look at what is a vision. A vision statement is like a photograph of your future business, which gives your business shape and direction. A company vision statement reveals at the highest level what the organization most hopes to be and achieve in the long term. It serves as somewhat a lofty purpose to harness all the company's foresight into how impactful the statement is. This is by a statement from Katie Taylor, the CEO of the Writing Consultancy. Moving on, let's look at the mission explained. According to entrepreneur.com, at the minimum, your mission statement should refine who your primary customers are, identify the product and the service you produce, and describe the geographical location in which you operate. A mission statement defines the company's business, its objective, and its approaches to reach those objectives. The mission statement describes the desire for the future position of the company. So with that, let's go look at a question. Do you agree with your current company vision and mission? Do you think the company culture is aligned with that mission and vision? So, keeping that in mind, let's go look at values and purpose. Values. Company values are also known as corporate values or core values. They are the fundamental beliefs upon which your business and its behaviors are based. They are the guiding principles that your business uses to manage its internal affairs as well as its relationship with customers. Let's have a look at purpose. Your business purpose is the reason you have formed your company. It boils down to a sentence or two. It can be industry specific or general enough to include the future business activities. To understand business purpose, it is important to distinguish it from the company vision and mission. It will also include expressing the organization's impact on the lives of the customers. Why is mission, vision, purpose, and values important to the company? Well, the mission statement articulates who we are and what our values are. The vision statement explains all that we want to become. We combine the mission and the vision, and that communicates the purpose that we have to everyone. Then, we use the mission, vision, and purpose to set up a strategy. If you are crafting a purpose statement, my advice is this. To inspire your staff to do good work for you, find a way to express the organization's impact on the lives of the customers, clients, students, and patients. Whoever you are trying to serve, make them feel it. Finally, as we end this lesson, I want to set a challenge for you all before lesson 7. Take the time to evaluate your current company culture. Also, look at your company vision and mission. Use both to evaluate and see if your company vision and mission is aligned with your company culture. This is a great practice to see if you understand the content and use it as a practical exercise. As we end this lesson, just a reminder that in lesson 7, we will focus on diversity management. This is one of the most relevant topics that all managers and leaders face. This is a universal challenge in all countries. I will end the lesson on that note. Have a great day, and I will speak to you all soon.